Hello there, I'm so sorry, I'm just a few minutes late, just getting things set up, and of course the day that I'm running late, also the tech didn't want to play straight away, so let's just get this up and running and make sure that I'm visible. Yes, I am, I can see myself, yeah, okay, fantastic. Hello, hello, let me know if you're watching, just let me know if you can actually see me. It's been a very hectic, crazy weekend. So that's kind of where I'm literally showing up here with that slightly crazy, a little bit off kilter kind of thing happening. But I'm getting there and things are settling down, and as challenging as it's been, so I'm still just tweaking your view a little bit there to get you a better view. That looks a little better from here now, I think. Okay, let's start, and then we'll talk to you about what has been going on, perhaps a little more as we go. Just making sure I've got as much as the page as possible on there. So I don't tend to show up to these journal pages with too much of a plan anyway, and I certainly don't today. It's been a little bit of I will share a little bit with you. Let's just start with a rectangle so that I can give myself some guidelines, because I'm going to tip this face sideways. I will just share it with you. My daughter left a very toxic relationship at the weekend. And it was that call, come and get me now before he comes back kind of thing. So it's been a little bit emotional and a little bit chaotic. I'm now dealing with an extra cat in the house, which my cats are absolutely disgusted by. But nobody's fighting, they're all just sulking and staying in their own rooms, so that's fine. So, they're probably doing better than I am in a lot of ways, but things have settled down a little bit today, and it's all positive stuff. But the reason I bring that up is because that's kind of where I'm at. So I'm a little bit off kilter because the routine is sort of broken up, and I'm probably a little bit emotional. So I really don't know what's going to show up on the page here. I'm just starting with, this is just a graphite stick in a pencil holder. I'm just going to talk you through what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. To line up, I wanted to put a face on here that had a head on one side. That was about as far as my plan went, other than the fact that I was probably going to start with some oil pastels and then add in some tinted charcoal pastels as well. My page is not primed, and I grabbed this journal because it is actually slightly cheaper paper than the one I regularly use, so it's quite lightweight, which doesn't matter for this, and obviously lightweight papers can be primed with gesso if you want to add more, but what it also does have, because it's a lesser quality paper, if you like, it has a slight texture to it, which is really good for soft chalk pastels and charcoal and things. So because I decided that I was going to bring some charcoals in today, that was why I grabbed this one. Also, it was close at hand, and I knew where it was, and I was running late, but I did already want to use charcoal, so that was the perfect solution. So I've given myself a rectangle to start with, because then I don't have that sort of issue of trying to tilt a head onto one side and get it even. I can use the straight lines there and then just build my face into it. So switch my focus now so that I can just talk you through this, and we'll see who and what shows up in this session. If you're playing along, then fantastic. I know some of you do occasionally, or if you're watching on a replay, then leave me a comment. And let's give this girl I'm just feeling my way here. Let's give her just a gentle neckline there. Kind of brought one shoulder a bit more forward, and the other one is going away, drifting off the page there. So I'm just going to use the guidelines of that rectangle to give myself an eye line. I'm just going to put that in very faintly, because I'm going to add that in with some oil pastels in a minute, and then a centre line. Obviously it's a lot easier to figure out where the centre is on a straight line, so the centre line there is coming down from the middle of that rectangle. I probably won't remove my guidelines. I've said this before, if you've been here before. In my journal, I kind of like to leave some of the guidelines there when I've sketched things out with a pencil, because it sort of tells the story of the piece and the page, unless there are marks that, you know, really bother me. I tend to just leave them in there, and we'll maybe cover them up with some other things depending on how things go. So a little bit, just a ball for the end of the nose then. I'm just making a little soft mark there to suggest nostrils. And halfway between, still following that centre line down, halfway between the nose and the chin will be the lip line where the lips meet. So I'm just going to give myself, pencil got stage right there. And just even that out as well. I could see the face, despite my guidelines, the face is just a little off centre there. So let's just bring that back in so that I know my nose is roughly in the centre. We'll mix that, we'll mark those eyes in as well, just very lightly with the pencil, so I kind of know where I'm going. So I'm sort of, I mean, I've no idea what might come out today, but I'm sort of expecting it to be perhaps a little bit tender. Emotionally, it's been quite a few days, but all positive things, and you know, the whole mama bear to the rescue thing, and you're going really strong, and I still am strong, and I'm really positive about everything that's happened, but there's also, you know, there's emotion there which comes out later on when you actually have time to, when you're not being the rescue party, you actually have time to process the situation for yourself and for your own feelings. So that's why I'd already scheduled the live anyway, you know, and had that sort of in my diary, but I almost didn't, and thought I might put it off for a few days, but actually that's the exact time when you need to show up to your journal, especially, you know, when you haven't had a chance to make art as well. It's a really great way to just let that emotion out. And I don't generally make a huge habit just on a, you know, a sort of a live broadcast, sharing my personal stuff that goes on. But on the other hand, I was just doing a little dip on the top lip there, sorry, I'll just talk you through what I'm doing. And then we'll reflect that for the lower lip as well. Nice, gentle, full lips there. Is the way I'm feeling this. But it felt relevant to just mention kind of where I was in myself and in my life in respect of this page, because it is important to share, and I want to think that my group is a really safe place as well. So I hope that's not kind of oversharing or distressing for anybody. Unfortunately, I would say probably 90% of the women that I know, that I've spoken to, been acquainted with in my life, have at some time or other experienced, to some degree at least, very controlling situation in a relationship, and they've had to sort of fight their way out of it and find their way back to themselves. So I have no doubt that many of you will understand. I've certainly been there, but I don't know if it's, I think it's probably harder seeing your child go through something like that than it is kind of going through it and surviving yourself. I'm going to give her lovely, rich, kind of deep eyelids, quite heavy, hooded eyes. And I was just feeling my way along with my pencil as I'm talking and letting this flow. And I can see that I mentioned the word tender, and that's what's coming out here. And that's exactly what I kind of wanted to show up, really, that I'm not feeling fierce, not now, have a little bit of time to calm down from that today, and actually just feel all the feels. I'm just bringing in the sides of the face there as well, and darkening the lines a little bit as I'm feeling more sure of myself. Just indentation slightly to the side of the eye there. I've come in a little bit too tight on this side, wider the other side, so just take that bit wider. And then bringing a curve out to sort of emphasize a cheekbone shape, and just looking at the distance here and here, and trying to keep that fairly even. No face is symmetrical, and you never look at someone unless you stand in front of a mirror and look directly at yourself and kind of keep yourself at a steady angle. No one ever looks at anybody kind of full square on anyway, so it doesn't matter. You know, small differences are fine. Let's put a little pupil in there as well. Already she's gentle and tender, and I feel like that's probably a really lovely theme of tenderness to bring to my page today. I won't do any more with my pencil. Let's bring some colour into this. I can't see if there are comments coming in, so if you're leaving me comments and I'm not answering, please know that I will come back to them and respond. I've sort of lifted my phone to a point where the whole of the page is visible, but it makes it a little bit awkward for me to sit up tall enough to see what's happening on my phone screen. So bear with me. If you have any questions or comments, I will come back to them later. I'm kind of randomly digging into, I'll show you my box of oil pastels, just all kind of roughly sectioned into colour groups, and I'm leaning into pinks and reds. I've got a new set of pastels, and they're beautiful fluorescent shades. I'm going to bring in one of the bright fluorescents as well, because you can be tender and joyful too. But for me personally, I always feel like pink is a very gentle and soothing colour, the soft pinks. So I'm going to start by just bringing in a little bit of those. Let's start with a mid-tone. So this is kind of a salmon pink. This is Montmartre is the brand of these oil pastels. They're fairly new to me. They're available on Amazon, and I absolutely recommend them as a kind of mid brand. They're really beautifully soft. Just going straight in on the upper lip there, and I'll leave the lower lip because that might be a lighter pink, and let's bring in a little bit of tone on the sides of the face there too. I'm not going to try and fill this whole portrait with oil pastels. I think that would take me probably over the time that Facebook kind of lets you go live and then boots you off. We'll go for a softer pink now, and let's bring that in on that lower lip. But I'm going to use this as a kind of a base, and then I'm going to bring in some tinted charcoal and soften some of these colours and use them for blending. I'm hoping that it doesn't smudge the oil pastel too much. Just shaping the face away so that, you know, the middle part of the face that comes towards you is a little bit lighter, and then pushing that lighter pink in, keeping my hand moving, letting the you know, my hand kind of do a lot of the wandering, and keeping it moving over the drawing as well, so you don't become sort of too focused in on one particular place. I feel like I bumped the phone with my head there, I'm sorry, as I leaned forward. My hair piled up out the way, and it hits on things. I forget how tall that can get. Sometimes I bump into things. This is a darker red. It's a less of a quality oil pastel, but let's bring in some deeper red just on the kind of where the upper lip meets the lower one there, to give that some depth sort of as it goes inwards where the lips meet. And just match that with a little bit of deeper red just at the corners of the lower lip and at the centre there. come back to that mid pink. And I do love just a little touch of pink on the tip of the nose. And then this is a very light salmon. And I'm going to mark in just the corner of the eyes there. A little bit more strongly. I think the edge of the nose too. So I'm keeping this fairly sparse because I'm conscious that I'd like to bring in some more solid colour using the tinted charcoals, but they're kind of big and chunky, and I don't have pinks. They're beautiful colours, they're really muted tones, but I don't have these wonderful pinks. I'm going to keep that fluorescent out. Let's bring in a little bit of the darker salmon. Just clean that off a little bit on some cloth. It's been in somewhere else and kind of got a bit mucky there. Just clean that off. So I try to clean them each time I use them, but it doesn't always happen. And sometimes they're kind of rubbing over paint and things, and they pick up different colours. So, but a rough cloth is fine to just clean them off. I'm just adding a little bit more skin tone there with that darker salmon colour. Go just a touch darker under the chin, so I use that mid pink just to emphasise that shadow. Not worrying at all about hair yet, and I'm keeping a hold of that fluorescent because that's really beautiful for mark making, but it's too early to bring that in quite yet. Almost a bit of the lighter salmon there. Just take that right down. So it's quite loose. I'm not going to blend them with my finger or anything, and you can see, I think, the tooth of the paper and how that's kind of picking up the oil pastel without, you know, I'm not laying it on thick, so it's still quite grainy, which is perfect because that's going to be a really great, way to blend, you know, a great surface to blend over when I bring in some dry media. I'm just going to grab a darker tone around the eyes. This is it's a dark. They're not great oil pastels, but it's a lovely colour. It's like an burnt umber kind of shade. So I just want to darken that. The reason I'm doing that with an oil pastel is because the charcoals, which you'll see in a minute, are great big chunky sticks. So you can do a lot with them, and they're wonderful to use. They're so rich and creamy. Let's have a little bit of brown in the eyes as well. Can't really see what I'm doing because the thickness of the stick sort of covers up the mark as I make it, which is quite good. It keeps things loose. And I'm just going with this, moving around. It's really important not to focus in hard on any particular area. Just define the edge of the chin there. Once you've used a colour in one place, you need to just bring it in somewhere else on the image, just to keep everything kind of integrated and working together. Just thinking maybe we'll use this brown. I'm liking these gentle brown tones. I didn't give it any ears because I tend to kind of come around to that afterwards when I've decided what the hair is going to be like. I think actually it's going to be quite a short hairdo today. Quite often I like to have big flowing locks and things, but she just feels gentle and neat, and just a suggestion of fringe down to shorten that forehead slightly. I feel like that's probably all that's needed for this one. I can feel it, my pulse rate's probably like going down as I work, which is obviously really healthy. Not that I suffer particularly from stress, but it's just been a few days of chaos and organising and being on top of things and you know, winning. I mean, I've managed it, and that's good, and it's all happening, and all the things that are changing are good. It's just a lot. Not to mention the physical side of actually moving somebody, especially somebody who isn't really prepared and wasn't packed. There was a lot of boxes that got carried yesterday, and I'm making in places that I forgot existed, so I had a very good workout yesterday. This is like a yellow ochre in the oil pastel as well. I'm going to put that in the lower half of the pupil. As I say, I can make smaller marks with these, which you will see in the larger charcoals that I bring in a minute. You can't really make very small. You can with the corners, but it's harder to make little tiny marks with them. So just using the oil pastels while I'm there to, it's ever so slightly cross-eyed. It's better. Let's even that up. Okay. Darken that lash line slightly while I've got some black. Not a huge fan of bringing in too much black, especially too early on, so I'm going to keep that to a minimum. A few bits scattering on the page there. All the fun of working in a journal and just letting that flow happen and bringing yourself to the page and showing up, which is the important thing. These are the extra large, they're Derwent extra large charcoals, they're tinted charcoals. They're wonderful, I love them. I probably don't use them as often as I should. Every single colour is amazing. Obviously there's black and white. There's an amazing, like a burgundy tone, which I think I'm going to bring in. And if I remember rightly, this is kind of like a burnt purple. It's beautiful, and a khaki tone as well. So lovely earthy tones. And we're going to use those, or I'm going to use those over the top of this. The first thing actually I think I'll do is just warm the background, and it gives me a feel by doing this. It gives me a feel of how they are going to behave on this particular paper. I can see how much pigment soaks in, how defined my marks can be. I'm using a really light touch. If you find that like you're getting too many marks, I don't really mind that too much, but if you find that your marks as you lay it down are showing up too much and you can't blend them out because they're soaking right into the paper, if you use a little bit of white chalk or even the white charcoal, but a bit of cheap white chalk over the page first, and then apply the tinted charcoal, the white chalk will fill some of the tooth on the page. I'll show you, I'll grab a little bit of white chalk. It will fill some of the tooth on the page and soften the effect of it. Let's find a tub of chalks here. So I may need to do that myself. So let's do a little bit just on the background here. So this is the cheapest white chalk you can get, because the cheap chalks tend to be dusty. And the more expensive ones tend to have more binders in, which is not actually what you really want for art purposes. That's great if you write on a chalkboard, but on this occasion cheaper is better. And see how that it's not, the page is not, I'm doing it super quickly because I just want a really loose background. What I wanted to get away with from was just having that white background. It just needed something going on there. And that chalk will really soften that tone, and I can blend this a little bit more. I've got my lines kind of showing up. I could just use that chalk to blend it without laying more pigment down, which is really super handy and dusty, so be prepared to get messy hands, which for me personally I find that very therapeutic, the whole messy hands thing. Let's bring in now some skin tone. I'm going to add a little bit more chalk because I kind of liked how that was softened. So the top of the cheeks there, down the middle of the nose there. Although you can't see it, that chalk will be filling some of the tooth in the page. So it will stop the pigment from going in quite as dark as it would on page, areas that don't have the chalk on. I hope that makes sense. I'm just going to put a little bit along the edge of her dress there as well, so that the top edge of it will be a little bit lighter. Obviously you can add more chalk as well. If you want to pull a bit back, you can add a little bit more chalk on the top. Just have a look at this. Make sure you You do have a view. I think I might be disappearing off the camera there, so I'm just going to hold the page up. Beautiful, rich red, brown there. These amazing earthy tones. I'm going from the bottom upwards so that it's darker towards the bottom. Just giving her kind of a soft, it's almost burgundy, but not quite. Just a soft garment that she's wearing. I'm going to define it too much. It just gives her something. And I can see now how that lovely sort of burgundy tone, it's probably got a name. I'll look it up in a minute. It probably tells you on the box what they're called. But they're beautiful earthy tones. If you're in the market for new art supplies, I could definitely recommend these for fun value. So I'm going to use that same colour just to kind of deepen the shadow beneath her chin. I'm going quite gently now because I don't want to rub too hard on that oil pastel. I still like to keep some of those lines showing up. But I'm just deepening them. It's working really well with the kind of brown that I'd already added in there. It's enough for now. Let's bring a little bit into the hair as well. It's actually really close to the colour of the brown, that umber, darker colour oil pastel, which was completely by accident. I'd like to tell you I planned it that way, but I won't. I didn't. But the colours work really well together, and it's just going from a really loose sketch with those oil pastels and really grainy marks, and then laying this over. It gives it a whole other, and despite the size and the clunkiness of this charcoal, these great big charcoal sticks, it's actually really controlled, because I can lay a little bit on, blend it, see how it looks, and then add just a little bit more. Bring a little bit more around the face there. I'll stop there rather than carry on too long with that one colour. Let's come back now with the ochre tone that I used in the background. Excuse me, just blowing across the page. It's the only way to really get rid of the dust without making a mess. A brush or anything will wreck that. So we've got some chalk on the skin tone there already. I don't want to lose these lovely tones that are already in, but I do want to just blend them slightly. Let's grab my cloth and just clean my fingers off. Not clean, but so they're not sort of contaminated with the very dark brown, so I can blend that ochre. It just brings a lovely warmth to the skin tone. I can add more there as well. You could do this with oil pastels, and then just use soft pastels as well, chalk pastels. They would do pretty much the same thing. Charcoal is just that little bit looser. And I hadn't used these sticks for a while, and I just love the texture of them. And also you can wear gloves to pop some latex gloves on if having your fingers in the charcoal it bothers you, or if your skin's super sensitive. Super easy to do that as well, so don't let that put you off. And you can use blenders and things too, but I just think you've got a lot more control when you do it with your fingers. This one is like my super favourite colour. If you can see that on the other page, it's it looks black when you look at the actual stick, but it's like a really deep, kind of cool purple tone. Let's put the stage right there. There we go. Let's just bring that, a little bit of that in as well. So you can just see a hint of purple in there. It's not a solid black. Just get some definition around the edges there. That edge is not working very well. Let's try. That's better. Some shadow there as well. By not overloading the page too much initially, There's plenty of room to kind of build on there. Fiddling to get the other one out. That's super, super black. I think we'll go with, I'm going to use all of these. This is the kind of khaki tone. So we're bringing in a hint of green, but they're wonderful earthy colours and they work super well. And we're not going for realism anyway. It's just about being present in my journal and exploring, and for me getting my studio time in, and also getting my fingers kind of really into the media. It's something I find so uplifting and refreshing, and it really feeds my soul. So I hope that's something that you can sort of feel for yourself when you bring that to your journal page, and just kind of experiencing this. If you're watching, it maybe inspires you to go get your fingers in there and play around. I'm back with the ochre now, which is that background tone, the lovely warm colours. I'm just using that to add a little bit of definition. I think I'm probably going to have to come back in with some more oil pastels for some finer lines. I don't want to lose the definition of the eyes, so we'll try a little bit more with oil pastels. I could go back and forth. I'm just kind of coming in a little bit darker now with that ochre, and it's really, you're almost sculpting the face. What I don't have in those charcoals is a pink tone. I'm just coming back to my oil pastels now. I'm going to bring a little bit more pink into that. This is with that very soft muted pink. It won't be perfect because it's going to pick up a little bit of the pigment from the charcoals, but I think it's just pink enough to make that work. And what I'm also going to do is put a little bit of, find it without picking it up, without dropping it, is put a little bit of white oil pastel here, so that when I blend there, it's not going to kind of tint the upper part of that lip. Let's have a little bit more chalk in there. And then come back in with that kind of yellow ochre. But just a little bit now. Tiny touches of pigment, nowhere near as dark as I was with the eyes. You just see how kind of blending them together, you can really sculpt the features of the face. Come back now with that almost black purple, just because I love it. It's such a beautiful warm black. And if you're ever painting and using black and you don't like how solid blacks can be, just adding some red or purple into your black will help to give it that slightly softer effect. But I've yet to find any media that kind of replicates the effects of these. The closest thing you're going to get are chalk pastels, and nothing else really replicates, that I've discovered, the effect of these amazing charcoals. They are beautiful, super rich. So I'm going to use just a little bit of the black now, because I want to blend it. Oops, it's gone a bit low there. That's why I protected that bit of white. It will stick to it. That's my chalk. Soften some of that just a little bit. Definitely a case of less is more, because the white will turn grey if I'm not careful, so I'm just keeping that white as clean as possible. Let's see if I can get some white into the whites of those eyes as well. I kind of like that the whole story is here. The pencil lines are still there. And underneath that, my rectangle as well that I started with is still there, although we can't see that anymore. But I like that you can see the story of the way that a piece has developed in your journal. It stays a little bit unrefined. I'm going to highlight the centre of the eyelids there. I can find a clean area on my poor piece of chalk, my messy fingers, just to keep that a little bit lighter. And then we'll come back in, excuse me, blowing all over it. And I'm using the same brown that I used in the hair on the outer edge of the lids, and I'm going to push that into the white so the centre of the eyelid still stays kind of highlighted, so that curves that out. And we'll bring a little bit on the inner edge as well, deepen those eye sockets and into the corner of the eye. And they are too chunky to fully express the shape of the eye, so I'm going to probably come in with some coloured pencil. But before we do that, let's just bring in some fun marks with this super bright fluorescent oil pastel that kind of kept there, because it's just, why wouldn't you? Why would you not want to use this? That's gorgeous. That makes me happy. And it's really pink and girly and kind of, but strong at the same time. Those eyes were just too soft in the corners. Let's have some fun with this pink. Just once it's here, obviously it's got to go somewhere else as well. Let's use it to just define some more texture in the hair. You can do this if the oil pastels are really soft. If they're harder, you might struggle. They might pick up the pigment underneath. But these are lovely soft oil pastels. I'm just adding a little bit of texture there. I will clean that one off just before I put it away, so that when I go back to use it again, it won't come up too dark. Let's grab my coloured pencil. So sticking all with dry media today, which is actually quite unusual for me, especially with these lives. I'm going to stay with similar tones. So I'm pulling out, I think this is a terracotta or Venetian red. It's a Derwent drawing. I'm going to use that just to define the eyes a little bit more, because so much expression comes from in those eyes. And I just can't get in there with either oil pastel or certainly not with those big charcoals. Darker towards the top where it's under the eyelid, and it comes down a little bit lighter further down. I can't stay away from colour, so let's bring in a little bit of my favourite cadmium yellow. You'll know I love using a little bit of yellow in skin tones as well. So now we've got just a little bit of yellow in the eyes. I mean, that could really stay just there. But just to unify things, and you could just have the eyes really standing out, but just to unify things, bringing in a few subtle touches of that cadmium elsewhere, the whole piece then takes on a lighter, warmer feeling, just with a few marks. I'm not going to do a lot because I really want to bring in another tone. I'm really loving these soft, earthy tones. This is black. These are all Faber-Castell pencils, pretty much, polychromos, which are lovely and rich and creamy and, you know, gorgeous to use. But use what you have. Derwent do lovely drawing pencils as well, colouring pencils, and the ink tints are awesome too. So, you know, I'm not suggesting a shopping list. There are loads of beautiful varieties of pencils out there, and everyone will have their favourites. Just defining those lids a little bit more. I'm going to come back with that, was it Venetian red? Yeah, Venetian red, which is kind of a terracotta, a very warm terracotta tone. I'm going to use that to just put in some eyebrows. We're going to keep those really, really subtle, first of all, because they make a huge difference to the expression. And I'm not going to curve them down. I'm actually just taking them very slightly upwards, because that is, it kind of fits with the expression of this, the gentleness and the tenderness. So if I take them up too far, she kind of looks quizzical, but if they're just tilting up very slightly, they're still curved, but they're just coming up very slightly in the middle. There's a slightly questioning, but there's a tenderness there. I hope that makes sense. And as this piece sort of started, I just really felt like that was what I wanted and needed to see and express. I've got a beautiful, this is a fuchsia pink. So just kind of adding into that fluorescent pink and the oil pastel there, just bringing that in a little bit more. Because they're lovely and rich, and because I haven't laid the oil pastel down too hard, I'm able to do that with this fuchsia and just bring that in a little bit of pink into that shadow beneath her nose there. And kind of using that pink pencil to blend as well, just bringing some of those together. Actually using it to push out some of the, I'm really lucky because I put that white oil pastel on there. It stopped the charcoal from going right into the paper, so I'm able to just push out some of that where that had gone too dark on her lip there. And I'll probably add a little highlight there just to soften that lower lip, because it's a little bit heavy for someone with such a kind of gentle expression. Let's bring a bit of black just around these irises now. Not all the way around or it gets too cartoony, just kind of down from the top. I think I'll leave the pupils alone. I kind of like that they're a little bit broken. It's like there's a little bit of light coming in there. And a lighter pink. Just to soften the pinks in the cheeks there. This is a salmon, again it's polychromo. Medium flesh, I don't know. Called it a salmon. Just softening that slightly, but still keeping all these textures and things that I started off with, keeping this quite raw, because a raw drawing carries its own emotion as well. I've neglected this neck area just a little bit, so I may need to come back to that. Actually blending those together with that salmon has sort of pulled that together quite well, so I'm okay with that. I could probably do with a little bit more definition here, but I'm not going to spend ages on it as we're on a live, and that's fairly... I've been here a little while. Yeah, I've been here kind of 40 minutes or so, I think. I'm just mindful of the fact that people can only stick around for a limited amount of time if you're watching live. And also that Facebook, let me get my pencil. Also Facebook can bump you off if you stay on for too long, so being mindful of that. Let's give her a little bit of an eyeline. I feel like those eyes, that softness just needs a touch more definition. And we're going to darken those brows now. Now I'm kind of happy with the position of them. I always start in light, and I do tend to leave the brows until the last. I kind of get tangled up in trying to draw every eyelash. Just darkening that works quite well, and I can refine kind of whether the eyes are level and things just by using that black pencil to blend. I think a few last touches, because I want to keep her really raw and loose, is just a little bit, if I have some, yep, I've got a palette there that's already got some paint on it, a little bit of white acrylic, because I know that is going to be okay, it's going to stick fine over the layers that I've got. I've got oil pastel here, I've got colour pencil here, and I've got charcoal here. So the page is quite loaded. So the only thing that I guarantee is going to work on top of that is some white acrylic. You could use a gel pen, but when you press down with it, it could also lift out some of the oil pastel. So this way I know that I can lay, by using acrylic, I know that I can just lay that on top and it's not going to dislodge anything that's underneath it. Before anybody asks about fixing, because there's a lot of charcoal on this, and obviously you know, that can move, it can lift. If you give this a good spray with some really super cheap hairspray, and I do mean like the cheapest hairspray you can find, because you don't want the fancy stuff that's got conditioners and oils and things in it, which is good for your hair, but bad for your paper. So cheap hairspray will fix this in your journal. And it still moves slightly, but not to the extent where using that white to take out some of my pencil lines. Give her just a little bit to the corner of the mouth as well, because that got a little bit overloaded there. Soften the mouth, but not too white. I want it to look kind of shiny, just highlighted. Let's highlight the tip of the nose there. So once you start bringing in the white, there's all kinds of places you can use it. But I'm not going to get too intricate about that. A touch of light here, but it's going past, that's noisy, sorry. And I can just see, before I stop, I can also see I need to come back in with my black pencil and just fix those nostrils as well. But first of all, we're going to put a little highlight in each eye. It's like my favourite part, because it puts that life in there. I could go on and sort of add a few highlights in her hair and that, but I kind of like how raw this is. It's kind of reflective of just showing up and creating for the joy and the just the celebration of being able to create, having the opportunity to create. That rustling is me looking for my black pencil, which I put to one side instead of putting it back neatly in the jar like I should have done. I just want to just give an edge to those nostrils, that just a little bit vague there. And this is the terracotta again. I just want to define the bottom edge of the nose. But then it's time to stop, because actually she's exactly as she's meant to be. I could add accents, I could go a little bit more with the fluorescent pink, but I'm actually going to stop because she feels at peace. And that's actually brought out a whole load of stuff. The need to create, the need to get my fingers into the media and just show up. Because, you know, as I said at the beginning, I almost didn't. But never, ever, ever do I show up, even if I end up with a painting or drawing that I'm not happy with, never, ever do I show up in my journal and not feel better for it, not feel a release, or just the pleasure of maybe just colour swatching sometimes if you really just can't create. Show up, give yourself that gift. So if you're watching, or if you catch this on the replay, let me know. And go grab some pencils and some charcoal and play around and make some mess. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to wrap this one up. I will make this video available for replay in the group here, and then after a few days it goes over to my YouTube channel, so you'll be able to find it permanently there, although it will disappear from Facebook. But I'm going to leave her as she is and let that acrylic dry. The only other touch I'm going to put on this is a little bit of super cheap hairspray, just to seal that charcoal a little bit and stop it from smudging. And obviously on that opposite page. It's kind of messy anyway, but I probably won't be doing any drawing over there, so that adds a layer of protection as well. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. If you've joined me live, I will catch up. If there are any comments, I will respond to them. If you have any questions, you can leave them. I will be around. Yeah, let me know if you're watching later on a replay as well. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you, Anita. I can sit up tall enough now to see comments. Thank you. I'm really glad that you enjoyed it, and that you can kind of see that life in there. And I hope I didn't overshare with everyone. I just felt like it was really helpful to say, look, this is the place that I'm coming from. And enjoy. Go create something. Go get your fingers messy. And see what happens, because it doesn't matter. It's just paper ultimately, but it will make you feel better. Have a great day, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.